When I started, I didn't question what I wanted in life at all. I just went in, head down, and worked 60, 70 hours a week. And then I woke up 5 years later, made some money, but was miserable, right? It just wasn't worth it. So any new advisors coming in now that I talk to, I'm like, you have to start with your why and what do you want your personal life to be like, and build your ideal schedule where personal time is first. Clients will work around that. And they love that we are an example then too. Like, what a great credibility factor.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Innovating Advice Show. I'm joined by Derek Notman, founder of Intrepid Wealth Partners, where he's known as a virtual CFP professional for elite frequent flyers. In this episode, Derek and I chat about the paths we took, both entering financial services in 2006 and going virtual in 2013, and how we came to the same conclusions despite very different experiences during that time. We also discuss how to build trust online and how to determine what your ideal client looks like after doing some internal work. And stay tuned until the end, where Derek talks about the system he's built to help advisors that want to transition to a virtual practice. You can find all the links we mention and the show notes at innovatingadvice.com/episode 27. You're listening to the Innovating Advice Show, and I'm your host, Kate Holmes, bringing you the global pulse on financial services innovation, featuring financial planners, financial advisors, and related professionals from all corners of the globe. Let's dive in. Hi, Derek. Thanks for joining the show.
Hello, Kate. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So, Derek, as a triple citizen and elite world traveler, where are you at hunkered down for this lockdown?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm hunkered down in Madison, Wisconsin right now. Yeah, I'm getting the itch, and I have had to get out of here for some travel, but I can't.
No, none of us can, which you and I were chatting in the pre-chat. We're starting to get those jitters. You know, people that know me well know that if I'm not on a trip, getting back from a trip, or about to leave for a trip, that I tend to get a little antsy. And that just in the last 24 to 48 hours is really starting to settle in. So, you know, you being an elite traveler and working with clients that are elite travelers, how are you and they feeling at this time, knowing we can't even properly plan a trip for potentially even months from now?
Yeah, it really does have that kind of cabin fever feel to it, and it's frustrating because you do feel like you need to be on the move. Otherwise, it's kind of going against the grain. And as close as I can get to that right now is just like look at flights. But I'm also, I'm even hesitant to book them because I just don't know what's going to happen. And especially for like my clients that fly a lot for business, like.
Yeah.
They can't. So now they're stuck working remotely, which is fine, but now they're managing their families at home and trying to work, and they're not getting to fly anymore. I guess the one little silver lining with Delta, at least I think most of the large airlines have done this now, is they're extending our status for next year.
Yes.
So that helps
Thank
a little,
goodness.
I guess. It's something.
It is something. But there's a lot of us that aren't used to being in one place this long. And You even said it in the pre-chat, it's starting to feel like Groundhog Day.
It totally is. Like, I just get up and I say hi to my wife in the morning. I get my cup of coffee. I'm like, wow, this is just like yesterday, and it's going to be just like tomorrow. And I mean, we're doing fine. Like, we're happy, we're healthy, and things could be a lot worse, of course.
Yes.
But it does get a little old. Like, you start to realize how important it is to be able to go out and have dinner with your family, or take your children out to do some fun kid activity. Like, it's all shut down, and so you add that to not being able to get on a plane, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Well, and my husband is a pilot, so he actually is out there flying right now. He's gone at the moment, and I was starting to feel, a little antsy, and I texted him just as a natural reaction. And I was like, hey, when you get home this weekend, like, I can't wait to go to happy hour, because that's, that's our thing. Like, we love happy hour. And as I'm writing this message, like, my heart just sank, and I was like, no, we can't do that. It's not an option.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. Like, we even have a gift certificate we got for our wedding anniversary to a beautiful restaurant just down the street. We can't even go there. We can't even go there to use it. I'm like, Yeah, I totally understand what you're feeling. I think a lot of us are, but it's the world we find ourselves in today. It's kind of crazy.
It is. Well, and for people like you and I that are used to working virtually and have for, the last decade plus, we're used to being able to work from anywhere, but are you finding it impacting almost like the psychological impact, productivity at all? The desire, since it is feeling more like Groundhog Day and not a normal, hey, I get to work from the beach today.
Uh, yeah, I don't. It actually has been okay. If anything, if I didn't have the ability to work virtually, I think I'd be going crazy.
Yeah.
Because I love what I do, and being able to set up shop wherever has allowed me to continue on as business as usual, which has been really nice. I think there are a lot of, whether they're advisors or just business owners in general, who are scrambling not only to do business but to just have some level of sanity and normalcy because they can't work from anywhere. And I just what was it? Just a month ago, I was working from the beach in South Africa.
Yeah.
And so like I was able to do that, and just I would prefer that over my house, but it is what it is, right? At least I can continue on. So if anything, it's helped keep some normalcy and just the days going. But yeah, the commute, from the kitchen to the office is is is,
Short.
is a little old now.
Absolutely. So, Derek, you and I both entered into financial services in early 2006. We both transitioned to virtual in 2013. Somehow didn't manage to cross paths until 2020, but I'm grateful that we did. So, share your journey with us and what got you to transition to virtual in 2013.
Yeah, thank you. It is funny. We have very similar paths, and we never connected. And the beauty is we connected via social media, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so I started in 2006. At the time, I didn't know how to spell IRA. Like, I had no previous
Yeah.
experience in the industry. I had worked with at-risk youth at a residential treatment center, and my degree is in archaeology. Right. So I really
Love
have
it.
no basis for this industry at all, but I knew I loved working with people, and I'd always been intrigued and enjoyed working with money. So at least on a
Yeah.
personal side. So um, yeah, 2006 started. I had no idea what I was doing, so I drank the Kool-Aid and just ran hard and started building a brick and mortar business. A lot of phone clinics, 30,000 miles a year driving, nights, weekends, and I was a generalist. I didn't know who to work with. I didn't know what it meant to have an ideal client. Everyone said I should have one, but they didn't say how to do that,
Or what it
uh,
should look like.
or
Yeah.
what it should look like. So I just looked at the other advisors around me. I'm like, well, they seem to be pretty successful, so I should probably go buy an office, and I should have staff. I should wear a full suit all the time, and then success happens, right?
Yeah.
So I just did that for a number of years, and what is there's this kind of like this perfect storm that happened that made me transition to virtual. Initially, it wasn't intentional. I had a business opportunity, so I ended up moving my family from Vermont. That's where we were living at the time. We moved to Madison, Wisconsin for a business opportunity that went south very quickly after I got here.
Ah,
And we'd already put our house on the market. We'd moved all of our junk out here, and we had a young, our son was 1 at the time. And after everything fell apart, I just had this like kind of heart to heart with myself, with my wife, with my family. I'm like, do we stay here or do we go back to Vermont? Vermont was the easy answer. And we didn't choose that. We stayed. And so initially I was flying back and forth every couple of weeks to meet with clients in person. I still had an office there, I had staff, all of that stuff. That got really old. Like, I like flying. Um, but I don't like getting on a small plane where I'm hunched over and doing that multiple times, in a short span of time. And it got really old really quickly. I was missing time with my wife and my son. And for those of us that are parents, like, our kids grow up so stinking quickly. And
yeah.
I didn't want that to happen. So I started to question, 6 months into that, I'm like, man, this sucks. There's got to be a better way. And that really kind of like, okay, here's this journey I'm going to start. And it literally started by having my clients in Vermont go into my office. My staff would be there and would set up a Skype call, and then And then they would be looking at the computer there. I would be in Madison, and we would be doing it there, and it worked. But then, like, it just opened up this whole new world to me. Like, okay, this can actually kind of work. I don't need to go here every couple weeks. And then, what is digital marketing? I need a website. What's that? Like, I resisted technology early on in this business. I didn't have a cell phone for the first 3 years I was an advisor.
What?
Yeah, I didn't even have a cell phone. I just wanted nothing to do with technology. I was, I guess I'm technically a millennial, but I just really wanted nothing to do with tech. I didn't get Facebook until like 3 or 4 years after it came out. Like I just didn't want any of that stuff. But I started like just getting comfortable and opening my mind to like, there's got to be a better way to run a business.
Yeah.
So that's what got me on that journey to go virtual.
That's great. So it was more part of your circumstances that led to it. Whereas for me, and I think you kind of got to the same point that I did. For me, it was really about, I have always known that I love traveling. Clearly, you have always known that you love traveling. I started my practice when I was in Seattle, where I grew up. I left and moved to Australia for a while, went back. I just never wanted to live in Seattle. I knew that wasn't where I belonged. And so my thing was, I really didn't want to start a practice that was reliant on me being in Seattle. And one of the things you and I have chatted about is in 2013, there wasn't really anyone else doing this. There was no blueprint for how this works. And I think thinking back, I was trying to read a lot of books on, what was it, like the 4-hour work week or the E-Myth and, all those things and kind of saying, okay, if this works in other industries and professions, there just has to be a way to make it work in financial services.
Totally, you're spot on. Yeah, so yeah, you were definitely a little bit more purposeful with that, and like it was a crazy time in my life because this business thing blew up in my face and cost me a lot of money. The house we were trying to sell was like the house from what's the movie with Tom Hanks? Money
The
Pit.
movie.
Yeah, like
He's had
just
a few.
yeah, just yeah, he's had a couple. But from that Money Pit movie, so we had that going on. I had a newborn, and it was just like I was not in a good place. So I wasn't as thoughtful about running a virtual practice initially. But then I started to see the benefits, as you did, and you're like, whoa, there's other stuff here going on that this could be pretty awesome if I build it this way.
Yeah. So now with all this experience and sort of reflecting back on, it's funny how sort of much of a technophobe you were trying to avoid it all. But with your experience now, for those that have now been forced into this or are thinking, hey, I might want to do this going forward, what would you say the first step to going virtual is?
You believe that it's possible.
Yep.
See, I didn't believe. I was deathly afraid my clients would leave me in droves. So I didn't tell them I was virtual for the first year. And that's why I was flying all the time. We're trying to go virtual.
Yep.
And it just, I was so scared. So it's kind of like the analogy I like to use is you can see a mountain in the horizon and you're standing at the very base and you can see the path. And you have to decide in your head first, yes, I can climb that mountain.
Yep.
And then you still have to do the work. It's going to be a journey, but that's the first spot that you have to really get to. So it's that mental roadblock. So any advisor thinking about like, is virtual possible? Well, yes, it is. There's no question about it. There's a number of us now that have been doing it for some time. But once that decision happens, then you've got to be willing to do all the work. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest challenge, and know that it's okay. Everyone else in the world is doing stuff online: dating, banking, medicine, groceries. Heck, you can even get a bottle of wine delivered to your house in some states now. I mean, like, you can do everything online. So why would people not want their advice the same way?
Yeah, and we're talking now in 2020, and thinking back, I'm actually just now in this moment piecing this together, but my first job in this profession was with my family's investment advisory business. And I sort of was my mom's retirement plan. And that business was started in the late 90s and actually was started paperless from the beginning. My mom has always been very tech forward. And we worked with about 100 sort of high net worth families around the country. And I think 100% of those relationships were always virtual.
Wow.
Never, in all the years that I was there for 8 years, we never did a video meeting, but every single quarter, all of the meetings were by phone.
Sure.
And that was happening 20 years ago. And there were clients that we had actually never met face to face. We were in Seattle and they were clients on the East Coast that came
Wow.
through word of mouth or through meeting, on a skiing trip or something and getting talking. And that's one of the things that I think people underestimate what clients are willing to do
Hmm.
and thinking that they need that. But a lot of times financial advisors are targeting wealthy people, business owners, small business owners, doctors, dentists.
Yeah.
They are busy. They don't want to stop their day and drive to an office and sit in traffic. I mean, they don't, and they haven't wanted to do that for a long time. If you are able to meet with them at 6 p.m. so that they can talk after their long day, that's great. And that can give you more flexibility to go surfing in the afternoon.
Oh, totally right. The time savings is huge. Yeah. And it's a quality of life thing, not only for the client, but for the advisor.
Yeah.
And it's scalable, right? So there's so many benefits. It's so cool that your family's office did that so early on. Well, you proved it worked before there were even web meetings. It's crazy.
It is. And that's what I'm saying, thinking back, and we worked with all retirees. So I don't think
Oh,
we
right on.
had an individual client under the age of 50.
Wow, that's so cool. But it goes exactly to the point. Like the advisor has to get out of their own head. Clients are usually willing to do pretty much anything as long as there's trust and a comfort level there. They don't really care so much about the medium. And if they don't have to get on, in the car and go through traffic or have someone they've never met come over at 6 o'clock at night to their house while they're trying to make dinner and deal with the kids, like it's just that old model just never really resonated with me.
It doesn't. So, I mean, I'm going to echo what you said is believing that it's possible. And I would challenge advisors to shift their mindset. And I think so many advisors are worried that clients are going to think that it's a reduction in service or that it's advisors pulling away somehow. But really think about it from the client's perspective. It's a huge value add.
Huge value add. They are looking for time savings. And I think technology has enhanced our lives in so many ways in the last 20 years, but it also, in a way, has made us busier people.
Yeah,
And
huge.
huge, right? So if we can save time, that's the biggest piece for the advisor and for the client. So yeah, it's get out of your own way and know that the customer is more than happy to do it. And it can be a very, very well, it's a differentiator still. I think as more advisors become virtual, it's going to be less of a differentiator, but it's always going to be a value add.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and even people that don't want to go fully virtual and travel around the world, why do you think advisors have been so hesitant to adopt technology?
It's a good question. I think the younger generations, younger than myself, are probably more comfortable. They probably got a cell phone a little earlier than I did. So I think part of the challenge is, yeah, and as you said, your point, like it's virtual is not all or nothing. You can run a semi-virtual practice, no problem. That's fine. And you don't have to travel all over the world to be virtual. You can stay in your same city, but now you can meet with everybody virtually. It's fine. So it's very scalable and adaptable depending on your style. I would say one of the challenges, though, is that most of the large financial institutions, wirehouses, wealth management firms, insurance companies, they are all teaching the sales strategies, philosophies, tactics, all that stuff that were taught back in 1985.
Ah,
And those were taught 50 years the same way before that. So technology's advanced, the consumer comfort level with online has advanced, but the environments that new advisors are coming into, in the most part, there are some forward-thinking firms out there that are definitely doing things differently, but they are the minority. But the bulk are coming into these huge institutions that are still stuck decades behind the rest of us. So when everyone else around you is telling you, no, you have to do phone clinics, you have to call 200 people a day, you have to meet in person, you'll never be successful otherwise. Like they're hearing that from all these different angles, and that is really tough. So I would say that's probably one of the challenges. And there's a lot of restrictions on some of the tech that can be used because those institutions just don't know how to embrace them.
Yeah, I would say a conversation that's been popping up over the last week or so. And I was just talking with a listener. Hey, Simon, shout out to Simon in Hong Kong yesterday. And everything there is still wet signature.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's one of those, baseline things. You're like, if you are forced to deal with paper and mailing things and wet signature, that's, kind of a frustrating roadblock right there.
No question. I do know it's changing though. I was talking to an advisor in the Philippines, and they were wet signature up until the pandemic. And then they overhauled their insurance regulations to now allow e-signature for things, but it just happened. And it was a reaction to a pandemic instead of forward thinking and being proactive. But yeah, I mean, when the institutions you're dealing with are still stuck in 1985, like some places still make you fax in like an application. Like, who has a fax?
I don't know. Who still makes fax machines?
Right? Right? It's crazy.
So, Derek, one of the biggest questions I always used to get because I was completely virtual and starting out very early was, how do you build trust online?
Yeah, I am a big believer in that. You have to be trustworthy to get business for anybody, but it's really not that hard. um, I have found that it starts first by the advisor just being true to themselves. Like, who are they? What are they all about? What are their passions in life? And then telling that story online. Now,
Yep.
when you and your mom were doing things back when, you were probably doing the exact same thing, but you would communicate it over the phone, maybe through some things you'd send in the mail, that type of
Yeah.
thing. And the same thing happens today, and it's the same thing we do in person if we're meeting with a client. Do we like each other? Do we have similar philosophies in life? Could we go get a beer together if the bars were open? That kind of thing. So technology has actually made it easier for us to build trust online. And even like my friend Michael Kitsis has said this, and you have to put out really good, engaging, and educational content, and let people consume it. Don't have some cheesy sales in there all the time. And then over time, you're going to build up a rapport where someone will come to you and you'll have no idea who they are, but they will have watched your videos, read your blogs, read
Yeah.
your social media posts, checked out your website. So they'll come to you feeling like they already know you. And it's a really easy conversation to have then to get acquainted and to build that trust, especially when you can see each other like this, right? You can still read nonverbals and see if someone's paying attention, all that kind of stuff. So I haven't thought it's a challenge at all. Initially, I was worried. Again, I was in my own mind, like, people will never trust this, and they actually prefer it.
Yeah.
Because think about it, where do people go today if they want to vet something, whether it's a product, a service, a person, whatever? We're going
Google.
online. Yeah, Google, right? Google, who is so and so, whatever. And if you're not there, that's a red flag. If you don't have a strong digital footprint, they're gonna be like, well, why doesn't Joe have a website? Who
Yeah.
is this person really? Are they really who they say they are, right? And then that's where the distrust comes in. So I found it pretty easy as long as you have a strong digital footprint.
Yep. And I would add to that, give them someone to know. Because
That's
I
good.
agree with you. They do get to know you. And I tracked where all of my clients came from. And on average, they said that they followed me for 6 months before they
Yeah.
ever made that initial contact. And one of the things that they always commented on was the reason they reached out is because I really showed my personality, whether it was through videos or newsletter or whatever. But you have to stand apart. So don't just send generic
Oh,
emails and newsletters that anybody in the world could send, because you're not actually going to attract anyone.
you're not. You're totally right. The white label stuff doesn't work.
No.
Just be genuine. Be you. And it'll be a filter too. It'll filter out people that don't resonate with you, which is good because you don't want to waste their time or yours. And the people that do come to you are pretty warm prospects at this point because they already know the you, right? And they're comfortable with you.
Yeah. And I would say one of the things, and you and I chat about this before, but I didn't even realize it. I was being a little bit selfish. And I think advisors need to do that, especially when you're building your own practice or your own brand. And I started with, okay, what do I want my life to look like? And then
Yes.
I built a practice that fit around my life. And the fascinating thing was, I would always tell clients, I would say, hey, you're talking to me, and I am in Botswana right now on a
Uh,
safari. I'm in South Africa. And they had fun with playing Where in the World is Kate? And it turned out that me building a practice in a completely different way actually was inspiration to them, looking at their life and going, oh, if she did it, then maybe I can actually be innovative in my area and start to reshape how they are living their life to actually fit their work around their life rather than the other way around.
I love that. I love that. That resonates so well. You're able to be the example that they that
Yep.
resonates with them. Um, and, everyone says forever now it's been, you want to have a good work-life balance, and I think that's all backwards.
Yeah.
It should be an awesome life-work balance, right?
Yes.
And I fell subject to the prior in that when I started, I didn't question what I wanted in life at all. I just went in head down and worked 60, 70 hours a week. And then I woke up 5 years later, made some money, but was miserable,
Yep.
right? It just wasn't worth it. So any new advisors coming in now that I talk to, I'm like, you have to start with your why and what do you want your personal life to be like, and build your ideal schedule where personal time is first. Clients will work around that, and they love that we are an example then too. Like what a great credibility factor,
Yes.
right? Be like, okay, Kate really is successful. Look what she's doing around the world. I want to be like Kate.
Yeah. So speaking of that, and you kind of mentioned earlier, this challenge and hey, get your ideal client. Okay, well, what is that? How do you define your ideal client? And I want to start with, do you think there's a benefit? You have been successful, you've started multiple businesses, you are an elite frequent flyer, and you work with clients that match that profile. So do you think there's a obvious benefit to doing that? And is that what everyone should do? Or how do you find your ideal client?
So it's been my experience, and this was not my journey initially. Again, my journey was I would work with anybody that fogged a mirror because that's what I
Yep.
was told to do, and I didn't question it. I was just naive or whatever. And you can make some money in that, but it's not scalable. And boy, is it a distraction, because now you may have an estate planning case over here, and then grandma over here, and then whatever. It's just all over the place. So you're not focused even with your mind and your planning. So the ideal client journey for me was something that came later as I became a lot more thoughtful about what I wanted out of a practice. And it really, the way I found it worked best, and I've talked about this before. I don't know if you can apply this to every single situation, but I think parts of it you can. Um, my wife and I both read the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
And one of the things they talk about in there is like actually writing out your definite chief aim. And then there's the whole vision board concept. And I had done that bits and pieces over the years, but was never very pointed about it. So we really drilled down and made it a family affair to figure that out. Wrote it all down, created the vision board. And what happened was like all of a sudden my world became very clear about what I wanted in life, where I wanted to go. And then that helps drive my marketing, my message, everything that I'm saying online, which then further went like, okay, well, who do I want to work with? Because I have a no a-hole policy.
Yes,
So
I
part of
did
my
too.
French there, I
Yep.
don't want to work with people I don't like or that don't value me.
Yes.
I won't do it. And so how do I increase the chances of working with people I like, I get along with? Work with people like me. So
Yeah.
work with business owners, and they happen to be elite frequent flyers. And I had this epiphany moment. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but we were on a flight to or from Cape Town last November. And we're at a point now where we're fortunate enough to be able to sit in the front of the plane. And I don't know what time it is. It's dark, it's a long flight. And
Yes.
I just gotten up and walked around, and I'm always thinking, and I'm looking across at all the seats and all the passengers sleeping. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is it. These are the people I want to work with. They are obviously successful enough to be able to fly up front here. They obviously travel a lot. They most likely are business owners if they're successful. So it all kind of came together in this one moment. But that wouldn't have happened if I had not gone through the mental journey earlier about my vision board and figuring out who I am and all of those things. I think to kind of sum it up, like, know yourself and then know who you're best at serving. Like, I know I don't know doctors well enough, and my father was a physician. Like, I just don't know that space well enough to be good there. And if you are, that's fine, but get super niche with whatever sector you're going to be in. And the more niche you can get, the actually more successful you're going to be.
Yep.
So that's kind of a long-winded answer for you there. Hopefully that works.
No, I like that. And a lot of it really is, we ask clients to do this work. Good financial planning really is about asking clients the questions they've never asked themselves. People don't know what they want their future to look like, what goals they have. Should they just be ticking the boxes and following the path, like you did in your early career? You're like, hey, I'm told this is what you're supposed to do. Okay,
right.
let's keep doing it. And if we're asking clients to do that, we need to make sure that we're taking the time to turn inward and do it with ourselves as well.
No question about it. It does take some time, but it's fun. It
Yep.
motivates you. It gets you excited, and then you get all of this clarity around where you're going in life, how to help your clients. It drives all of your marketing and your branding. So it gets really easy. So it's very simple to figure out what I want to talk about and what message I want to share now.
Yeah, that's great. So how do clients find you then?
It's all online at this point, or referrals. So I'm very active on social media. I have 2 websites that I'm active on. I run a blog. Um, More and more messing around with video. So just having a strong digital footprint. And then, so it's interesting, I'm sure the statistic changes a little bit from year to year, but for example, on LinkedIn, the last statistic I read for 2019 was that out of the 600 and some million people on that site, only 1% are creating content that others are consuming. You only are competing against 1% of the users of LinkedIn to share your message. That's amazing, right? Like, what a great opportunity to just share who you are, because most people online are what I call creepers. They're there.
True.
It's true. They're just looking, they're flipping the thumb, they're scrolling, and they don't comment. And then you get maybe 10% of the population that'll like or comment on something, but only 1% approximately, don't hold me to those numbers,
Sure.
actually create content. So one of the things I learned is, like, I'm going to just start creating. I'm going to start sharing my story, and my reach has grown exponentially. People are like contacting me, just like you said, like they'd watch you for 6 months and then they'll eventually reach out.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing what that is. So yeah, so you have to have a strong digital footprint to be able to do that and spend your time doing that. So instead of driving around prospecting or doing those phone calls, get your butt in a seat, get active online, and be where people already are, and just market to them with educational content, with ideas, with thought-provoking questions, and the rest takes care of itself.
And what about when people are deciding what platform to be on? I heard from a listener in Namibia yesterday who listened to the episode with Adele Martin, and she was talking about how successful she's been on Facebook. And he said that he's not even on Facebook. And I was like, well, then maybe that's not where you start. If that's not where you're at, don't force it.
Don't force it, for sure. Go where you're comfortable, and do a little research though. Like, where do you think your ideal client is hanging out?
Yep.
And be there, because like I would suspect there are more retirees and grandparents and baby boomers on Facebook than there are on LinkedIn. So it depends who you're marketing towards, and then you just have to go there and be present. And I use LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I've got my websites, but I'm pretty much active on only LinkedIn and a little bit of Twitter. I'll repost stuff on the other platforms, but there's only so much time in a day. So go pick one that you're comfortable with, you like, and just go crush it there, and then see what happens. And then you pivot once you get some feedback.
Yeah. And I've got Tim Slatter on last week's episode talking about social media. And he's talking about, advisors are gatekeepers of value, not of information. So when you're thinking about what do you put on social media, put all the information out there that you want. Be educational, share that stuff. That's not your secret sauce. your secret sauce is that one-on-one relationship and the value. So don't
Yeah,
go out there
exactly.
and just be spammy with things or just start posting. I see some people in different Facebook groups that I'm in that just keep popping up in comments saying, hey, DM me and I can help you with that.
No, that's not. You wouldn't
Don't
do
do
that
that.
you wouldn't do that in person.
No.
So don't do that online, right? It drives me crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of spammers out there and whatnot. But yeah, just be genuine. Let your persona come through good stuff. Like
Yep.
I don't think I've ever talked about product on any of my LinkedIn posts. It's all about just stuff that's going on, questions, thought-provoking ideas that resonate with people. And then eventually, okay, what does Derek do?
Yeah.
I just had a life event. I think I need to talk to Derek now, right?
Perfect.
Because they trust you.
So, Derek, you've gone through this whole process. You've learned a lot from being that technophobe to really mastering this whole concept of running a virtual practice. You know what goes into finding your ideal client, figuring out what to post on social media, building that website, creating that messaging. It's a lot that goes into it. And you have created a new system that helps advisors walk through that. So, can you tell us about the virtual advisor system?
Yeah, I will. Thank you. So as you know, there was no blueprint for us when we started. So we literally had to figure it out, tons of trial and error, years of research to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And about a year and a half ago, so I'm really entrepreneurial. I've got the entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm sitting with my family about a year and a half ago, and I'm kind of having one of those down days where I'm just frustrated and whatnot. And I'm like, I really want to do something that I can create a business that I can, improve my family's situation, but also bringing value to more. And I started writing down a list of things I could do. And the virtual advisor system is, as soon as I wrote it out, I just stopped. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. And, chewed on it for a day. And then a day later, I had the entire business built on paper. Because
Awesome.
I was just like, okay, mind blown, here we go, this is it. Because I wanted to help as many advisors do what I had done, because I saw the qualities of, like, man, I got my time back, my overheads dropped by literally 54%. I just checked it the other day. 54% lower overhead, revenues are going up, I'm having an awesome life. Like, why wouldn't I want to help others do that? So I spent the next year or so building that business, hired a team to do it, and now that is live. And what that system is it is a turnkey system to help advisors build a virtual or semi-virtual practice. The whole thing, everything that is needed, it's the entire master blueprint from start to finish on how to build that. And what's beautiful about it is that it's plug and play depending on your style, your personality, the compliance environment that you're in, the tools that you want to use, which is really a nice way to do it. So, like, I may want marble countertops, but the next person might want granite, right? No
Yeah.
problem. We can do that. So it's been really exciting. And, a couple of people I've talked to, they've been like, you're ahead of the curve on this one. And then one colleague about a month ago, he's like, Derek, you started the coronavirus, didn't you? He's like, you started this pandemic just so you could get your system more attention. I'm like, yeah, I'm patient zero, whatever, and I don't mean to make light of a really bad thing that's going on, but it's interesting how the timing really worked. Like, I had this all built, and then this whole thing has happened. So, like, I've been getting so much interest from around the world just because of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that
Yeah.
just launched in December.
Yeah, soft launch in December, and first revenue January 1st. It was pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it was really cool, and it's just been going, ever since, and it's awesome. And I've met so many cool people around the world now. It's taken up more of my time, but I have that time because my advisory business is running so well because I'm virtual. So it's
It's
been pretty
amazing, isn't it?
cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, if people are interested, I don't know if you want to link to it in your
Yep, it's
on your
linked in the
site.
show notes.
Awesome, right on. Yes, people can check it out and shoot me up, hook an email, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm here to help. I really am. So
And in the show notes, I've got the links to the virtual advisor system, to Intrepid Wealth Partners, to see how you've built your site, and the fact that the first thing you see on there just says that you are virtual. So there's no question for clients. And I think that's a really good point. I think there are some advisors that might want to feel like they have to hide that and say, oh, I'll tell them I'm virtual later. No, just put it out front. And I've linked to your LinkedIn. You do put great content on there. I read it all. You've inspired me many days, especially lately. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't feel like doing anything. And then, you put some inspirational stuff out there. I'm like, okay, Derek, I'm going to do it. So links to all that down in the show notes. And so talking about technology and everything, what apps or software tools bring you the most efficiency in your day-to-day operations?
So I love Calendly.
Yep.
It's simple. It's been around for a while, but what a great time saver.
Huge.
So love that. I love actually, so like we're using Zoom today, which is a fantastic platform. But for advisors just starting out who really are strapped, because new advisors especially are charged a nickel and dime from every angle.
Yep.
So an alternative, which I've had a lot of success with, is freeconferencecall.com. And it's a platform just like this, but entirely free for up to 1,000 users. So I've had a lot of fun using that with meetings. God, what other tech I love my Surface Pro.
Yeah.
I'm just on a docking station and I can go wherever I want to go. And I've got like a virtual 800 number service. So I can call you, Kate, from Cape Town, and it'll look like I'm calling from my US number, and I can do it from my computer. It's awesome, right? It's just all these cool little things that fit together. So
awesome.
I've got a whole list of tech and stuff that I use in my system, recommended this and that, because there's a ton out there.
There's a ton. Yep. And that can be easy analysis paralysis once you start going down that path. I mean, and that's one of the challenges with advisors is like, at some point, just stop analyzing. Like you got to get out there and do. And we have to have an ego for this business because it's a tough business. There's no consistent paycheck. There's a lot of rejection. So you have to have an ego, but don't let that ego get in the way of building a really good business. Yep. Agree. Awesome. Any final words of wisdom or inspiration to leave the listeners with as they continue through their repeated Groundhog Days?
You're putting me on the spot. I think just to really focus on all the positives. A lot of good is going to come out of this pandemic. I think there's a lot of change happening. It's forced, but it's good change. Know your why. Know your why. Like stop what you're doing. Go do that vision board. And like your whole world changes. That's one of the best things that we ever did was creating like not a digital one. I've had some people do like, I'm gonna just pull things in a PDF or Word. No. Get a piece of cardboard, print out the pictures, put them on there with thumbtacks, and make a real vision.
Yep. And knowing your why, like you said, I just want to emphasize that because it's not what is your company's why. What does your boss say that your KPIs are this year? It's not that why. Turn completely internal, be 100% selfish, and just figure out your why. And who knows what path that'll take you down, but that's your starting point.
I totally agree. And to further your point, and also on the travel bit, when we fly, what do they say about putting the oxygen masks on?
Put it on yourself before helping anyone else.
You can't help anybody if you haven't helped yourself first. So it's okay to be selfish. We're giving people permission to be selfish here and take care of themselves first.
Yes. And what a perfect time to do that.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thanks, Kate. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to the Innovating Advice Show. I would love to hear from you directly about what resonated, what didn't, and what you'd like to hear in future episodes. You can connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram at Innovating Advice, or hop on over to innovatingadvice.com. Till next time.